Welcome, everybody. Episode 49, Glaziar Gamble Podcast. And this is the sports section. We just got one NBA topic we want to talk about, obviously, finals. And then we would like to talk an NFL topic, kind of grip the nation a little bit. And we'd like to put in our input. It seems like some other things were gripped as well. We'll talk some Deshaun Watson after we talk finals. First thing, though, NBA Finals, Celtics are up 2-1 at the time of this recording. We are recording on 6-9. Happy 6-9 day, everybody.
Nice.
6-9 day. So
I saw someone, some baseball analyst was like, 6-9 should be National Doubleheader Day in MLB.
That would be amazing.
Just throw two. Every team plays 2 games or whatever.
That would be amazing. Yeah. I would love that. Baseball would never do that because they're an anti-fun league. They're the true no-fun league. People will say that about the NFL. At least the NFL has some stuff. The NFL gives into some memes. The NFL has their players do joke commercials. Baseball is just boring as hell as a game and as a league.
True.
Anyway, so basketball. Finals, Celtics up 2-1. People are crediting Robert Williams, Time Lord, for
he's plus 21. Yeah, he's
pretty sick nickname, if I do say so myself. I think we talked about it. We said that the one advantage the Celtics have over the Warriors is size. We said that was it. Size, Warriors have advantage, and then potentially depth. Otherwise, Warriors have advantage in every other possible field that you could think of. Apparently size, just like the Raptors, just like some of these other teams that gave them fits, Clippers, size is what kind of stops this Warriors team. Draymond,
sure,
small.
Yeah,
like he plays center, but he's 6'6", 6'5".
Yeah, he's also playing like duty too, so he hasn't.
He's been playing very poorly. I just think like he's listed at like 6'7" or 6'8".
Yeah,
something like that. Like when he's standing on the court, he's got to be like 6'5", 6'6". I don't think he looks that tall compared to these huge players.
Right.
And so that means he can get out, like he's outsized by Robert Williams, who's considered an undersized center.
Yeah.
And he's outsized by Al Horford, and Al Horford's willing to play rough.
Yeah, the Warriors need to figure out their defense because they can score. Like the second game or that last night's game, Steph and Clay had 56. So they need some other people to contribute. Wiggins has been missing a ton of open shots. I know. The Warriors fans.
I thought Jordan Poole's a top 5 player in the NBA.
I thought Jordan Poole was better than Ant.
Right. We've been hearing all year that Jordan Poole's the best young player in the NBA right now. He's better than Anthony Edwards, better than LaMelo Ball.
Yeah. He doesn't play defense though.
He doesn't play defense, and apparently in the playoffs he doesn't play offense either.
Yeah. It's outside the one game where the game 2 where the Warriors blew him out.
Right.
Yeah. But yeah, I don't know. They got to figure out their defensive thing because I think they could. There's. And then their third guy, their fourth guy, they got to get some numbers from them too, because Wiggins is missing open shots. Part
of it, it's hard shooting on a 10-foot and 2-inch rim.
Yeah. I was like, Boston's putting out all the stops here. They're trying to.
If anybody didn't see that, the Warriors were complaining about the height of their rim and shoot around, saying it was the wrong height, and it was in fact 2 inches or 3 inches too tall.
Yeah,
I predicted Warriors in 6. You predicted Warriors in 5. Warriors cannot no longer win in 5, but they could still win. I don't know. The Celtics are surprising me a lot. I didn't realize that they'd play this well. I also didn't realize that some of the key contributors on the Warriors would play this poorly.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
And now it feels like the underdog is winning, so it's nice.
Right.
It was a kind of a win-win situation. Dynasty wins, underdog wins. So
sure,
it's good. It's good with either team winning in my eyes. And like we said, Jason Tatum, this propels him into potential, probably the best young player. People probably saying he's better than Luka at this point. Jaylen Brown hopefully
Jaylen Brown is the one. Jaylen Brown's the one carrying the team here.
For those who don't know, we had an entire video dedicated
40 episodes ago.
It was probably episode 20 something like that.
Yeah.
We talked about how it was when the Celtics
Boston
were talking about trading. Jaylen Brown wanted to split up because they said it didn't work with Jason Tatum, and we said it's potential that Jaylen Brown is more valuable.
Yeah.
And, obviously some people disagreed with us. We had some people that said, Jason Tatum is clearly the better option for your franchise. Right. I agree with you 100%. I think Jason Tatum is inefficient, but very good. I think Jaylen Brown on both ends of the court is showing.
Jaylen Brown has been the best player for the Celtics this series, hands down.
Jaylen Brown and Robert Williams look better than Tatum's looking.
Yeah.
And again, that's just, players working well together. You got one star. It just, I think Jaylen Brown 100%. He's the guy that blocks you on one end, dunks it on the other, steals it on the inbound, dunks it again. Like, he's the guy that does those impact huge plays where it's like only superstars do that sort of thing. Superstars and Corey Brewer.
Right.
It's just, he's been phenomenal. I think Jaylen Brown deserves. Jason Tatum's going to get all the credit, but right now everybody's obsessed with Steph in the Finals MVP. Steph's playing well enough for that. But if the Celtics were to win this, Robert Williams would be given it. Jaylen Brown deserves it. 100%. Yeah. I think Jaylen Brown's Finals MVP as of this moment.
Sure, I agree. Yeah, he just hands down, like, his first quarters, he gets the Celtics on a path to win the game, and in both of their wins. He had like a 17-point first quarter that first game. He had a quick 10 points in last night's game. So So I don't know. Jaylen Brown's would be my Finals MVP if the series ended right now. And then if the Warriors can somehow pull it off, I don't think anyone's even close to where Steph's at. So
pick integrity. I'm still taking Warriors in 6, but after that last game, I'm probably going to be wrong, but I'm sticking with Warriors in 6.
I'm still going. I'll do Warriors in 6 too. I think I still want, like, if they come out and
watch the Warriors come back from 3-1.
Yeah.
Watch the Warriors come back and win it in 7.
Yeah.
It's going to happen, and people are going to say it's rigged. That's all it's going to be. Anyway, so we didn't have too much to say about basketball. That's Jaylen Brown's current Finals MVP in our opinion. Yep. Still picking Warriors in 6. Steph will win it if they win it. So that's basketball. Now let's move into the hot topic. Not the store, but the well talked about topic of football this week. Yeah. Everybody's going into it. Former players, current players, coaches, GMs, people throughout the league. New York Times. Yeah. New York Times article.
The biggest.
Came out. 66 women, 66 masseuses in the span of 17 months.
Yep.
I'm not a wealthy person.
That's like one a week, right?
It's 1.5 every month, I think. I think that's 1.5 every month, right? Or
every month, no.
Every week, 1.5 every week.
Yeah.
So, I'm not a wealthy person, so I've never, had a regular masseuse or trainer or anything like that, a nutritionist, all that sort of thing.
What I also think is weird is, like, the fact that he sought out these masseuses. I assume we're all probably female. When the Houston Texans at the time would probably give him a better service, like in regards to like rehabilitation of,
right. He's seeking out, and a lot of them he sought out on Instagram.
Yeah,
like DMs.
Right. Yeah,
women
when he's got like
professional,
free through the Texans organization. So
yep. And I find it strange that the reason I said I'm not wealthy, don't afford that, because other people that have been commenting on it. Other people that have had access to their own nutritionists, their own masseuses, their own trainers. Most of them said they've had 2 regular ones, and the only reason they've ever gone more than 2 is because one of them retires or moves.
Sure.
So then they might have 3 or 4 throughout their entire life because of those sorts of reasons, it's around their home facility, like in their like Right.
their
Yeah.
home
So I mean, you have
stadium.
some of these like guys like Colin Cowherd out there says he has a masseuse or has a personal trainer or whatever, and he's only ever had like 2. You got guys like that commenting on it. You have other former players. You got like Ben Lieber mentioned that when he was in the NFL, he's tried to see the same person every time.
Sure.
So, you know, you got these guys, you got former players, you got current analysts, you got all these guys talking about how a part of the big thing that's strange is how many. Yeah, and I think it gets to a certain point. We'll be talking about somebody in our entertainment or Marvel or DC. It gets to a certain point, you get so many different incidents. Like, even if you were rooting for them up to a certain point, they get to a certain point where it's like, they got to get help. I'm not saying he needs to be incarcerated however, if I'm the father of one of those women, I probably feel very differently.
Also state in the last month, there's been 2 new allegations to add to the from 22 to 24.
Which
on
the
top of
issue is being that Deshaun stated there were no other cases, no other women.
Right.
Because he stated that can increase in a court of law, can increase the punishment per woman, because each one is considered a violation or stating that he lied in a court of law. So, you know, each woman that comes out adds a whole new pile to this situation.
Sure.
Texans doing the whole NDA thing where he was having the women sign non-disclosure agreements. That's scumbag move for sure.
Yeah, Texans knowing about it. Yeah.
So the Texans knew.
Sick too.
And they were trying to hide it all because it made it easier for them to trade.
Right.
The Browns
had no idea. Yeah.
Had to have known.
Well, yeah, they could have reached out to any
They didn't
lawyer,
reach out to a single victim.
Right.
Like, yeah, there's legal ramifications, but because they knew about some of these they most likely allegedly knew about some of these other women that weren't in court. Those ones are fair game to talk to.
Right. You're not 66,
interfering with the court case.
Other 42 women that
you had
didn't
42 other
up.
women you could have talked to. Any of them that signed an NDA, obviously you probably can't talk to them because of legal issues.
Sure.
But any of them that didn't sign an NDA that were part of that additional 42, fair game to talk to, and they didn't. Instead, they gave the most guaranteed money in history to
and I believe the New York Times got those numbers through Deshaun's phone. Like, they legally went through his phone or something like that, and they got number.
They did. I think they said 6 months worth of legal research, private investigator stuff.
Yeah,
which is why, if you assume that this is the last article you're going to see from New York Times on this, you'd be wrong. New York Times has multiple other stories that they're going to break throughout the next however long to keep the rotation of monthly viewers on their site, monthly readers. It helps them out as a business. It helps them out as a website. So they're going to slowly trickle out this information. They're not going to give it to you all at once. That'd be very poor journalism. So because they did all that research, they found out more than what they've said, for sure. Just like common sense, they found more. And because of what we've seen from Deshaun, or allegedly, we know there's probably more to deal with.
Yeah.
I just like I said, he doesn't have to get arrested. However, I do think the best thing would be for him to probably go back to court and see if they could find some sort of criminal charges. Since he did lie in court, things are would probably go a little bit different. Since it was in Texas, I still guarantee he gets no time. But I think he could use some, like, similar to Tiger Woods. Tiger Woods had to go to like sexual therapy for what was going on with him. I think Deshaun Watson could use, like, I think a nice medium, like, I don't really want to go to a middle ground with somebody who's this, potentially messed up.
Right.
But I think he, at minimum, part of his suspension in the NFL or this next potential court battle should involve him going through some sort of sexual therapy, because since it's clear he's a serial, whatever you want to call it.
Right.
It wasn't anything criminal because you didn't get arrested or charged, even if it's criminal in your mind, ethically, that sort of thing. Technically, like if you want to go based on court of law, wasn't criminal.
Right.
So he's a serial, whatever. He's a serial seducer.
Yeah.
Something like that.
You could use probably harsher terminology, but
terminology, but anything harsher becomes kind of like criminal line. So I think
right.
serial seducer. The word serial is probably the more harsher of those two words.
Sure.
But whatever he's doing is he's showing a pattern. It's planned, it's executed, and then the victims feel used, wronged, or in some cases.
And I think another thing that bugs me
that.
is the Texans, I guess, unwillingness to help either Deshaun or said victims,
right. Neither team seems to care about the victims.
It's going same thing with the Browns. Browns are like, nothing's happening. We're like, they're completely disregarding anything that's happening with it. And we used to be big Browns fans. Isaiah Crowell was one of the Jordan Cameron, like those players, Joe Thomas, like you can name all these older.
Even when Joe Hayden was there, I liked the
Yeah.
Justin Gilbert pick, even though that didn't pan out. Right. Myles Garrett's a freak of an athlete, super good. Jadeveon Clowney, or not Jadeveon Clowney, Jamie Collins when he was there.
Yeah.
Christian Kirksey.
We used to like the Browns, but I think we've both kind of lost some respect for them in this whole ordeal.
Right. And the Texans. I didn't have a lot of respect for the Texans already, and they've lost basically the last little bit of it.
Yeah.
Browns, I loved them, but not really.
I dislike the Browns organization now because they put their faith in somebody that has potentially to be sick.
Right. But the potential of what it could be, like, we can't really say we can say what we want. It's a podcast, it's whatever. You can say whatever you want. You can say, oh yeah, he's disgusting, but legally, can't really claim anything. But we can say that, the Browns and the Texans owners already weren't very liked amongst other owners.
Right.
This is another one of those. So this is one of those situations that's not going to make that better. They gave guaranteed money, so now they've raised what you're supposed to give to all these other players.
Only $190 million in dead cap if they were to cut him right now. So
right. Well, they can't cut him. You can't cut him. You've made your bed. Now you lie in it. That's that cliche saying.
And then
they shat in it. Now they have to lie in the shit
for the next,
and then act like
years.
They don't smell anything.
Yeah,
and then act like you got real bad COVID. You lost all your taste and smell, and you're rolling around.
I'm very curious how the NFL responds because a lot of people are bringing up the Calvin Ridley thing. How Calvin Ridley bet on like one game over the course of 15 days. I don't know, something like that.
It was like $15,000 total, or 12. It was like a $1,200 bet. That was the one that triggered the we need to look into this.
Right. So, and he's banned for a year, but it goes back to the drug use versus the domestic violence. Like the
Josh Gordon getting suspended for 6 games when Ray Rice got 2,
or not even Ray Rice. He was a Cowboy.
Greg Hardy.
Greg Hardy. Yeah, that's what I'm thinking of. So. Yeah, like
Greg Hardy got 4 games.
Yeah, it was like a 6-game suspension for Josh Gordon at one point, and then I don't know, Greg Hardy's 4
Josh
games.
Gordon's second thing was a year. Yeah. Second time getting caught was a year, but then you have a tolerance policy. Yeah. Greg Hardy, Ray Rice, Kareem Hunt.
Yeah,
you got all these guys caught on camera. So solutions. We don't come with problems, we come with solutions. Again, my solution was he should at minimum go be forced into some sexual therapy, try to figure out if there's something wrong, or if it is it the fact that does he like making them uncomfortable, because that would be where the problem would come in. If you're issue is, or if what you enjoy is making the women uncomfortable, making the women feel like they were just used, that's an issue, because that sort of thing is when it's 66 in a short amount of time, or a decently short amount of time, eventually that's a sign that you're looking for more and more. Usually with serial anything, that means it's going to escalate. Like a serial, like serial killers start pulling the legs of insects, then they start, killing like small animals, and then it's like, oh, they kill a pet, and they eventually escalate into a human.
Sure.
They might show, they might be able to find out that it shows a pattern of he might get more and more aggressive as they let more and more happen. Somebody might let him do a little bit too much, and then he might take it too far.
Right.
Because there's no reason for him to stop doing what he's doing, as long as he continues to do what he has and provide proof that they're okay with it, like what he did in the initial court cases. I know people are mad. I want him suspended at least 2 years, and I would love if they waited a year. Like, they let him play this year, let the Browns get booed constantly, let him like hear boos for an entire year without suspension. This would be my dream scenario. Let him play this year. Deshaun Watson plays and just gets booed every time he touches the ball all year. Nobody. The NFL is just getting dragged through the mud all year long, as Deshaun Watson's the primary story.
Sure.
After that, the NFL realizes that they can't deal with it, so they suspend him 2 years. So he gets his $1 million base salary, but then when his base salary jumps up, he loses all of it for like 2 years because they waited a year. That would be my dream scenario. Right. I don't see that happening. I see him potentially getting suspended for like 18 games and then bringing it down, or like 25 games and then bringing it down to a 1 season where he can be back for the playoffs.
Sure.
Because as long as it's not in a court of law, unfortunately, like this, it's just the NFL getting involved in something that they don't really have jurisdiction in. So that's my solution, is sexual therapy and suspension, but preferably a delayed suspension so that he loses more money. But if your goal is to agree with the court system, if you believe that the United States has a just and fair court system, then you should say that Deshaun Watson should be allowed to play, not get suspended at all, and we should all move on.
Yeah, it's very, very curious to see what these next two, the New York Times thing and the information that they discovered or unearthed, and then what these next two civil cases bring. If they find any validity to any of this, I think my dream scenario would be he's suspended indefinitely for his entire career, and the Browns have to pay that money to a women's shelter. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Yeah. If the Browns would be forced to pay that money, that's like dream scenario. I think
that's dream scenario.
Like dream scenario, I would say like a more realistic would be that whole delayed suspension thing. But yeah, dream scenario, make them pay.
And then if not, then I think 2 years. 2 years would. I don't think 2 years is fair, but
but if he's not going to be proved guilty for any of these things,
I would like to see NFL's policy change on drug use, domestic violence, betting, and the criminal.
That's been Goodell's whole issue since he took over.
Yeah.
Is he has zero consistency when it comes to punishments.
Yeah.
Players get blackballed for making protests, but other players can play when they are caught on camera doing things. Like, it's just there's no consistency there. So yeah, I agree. I would like some consistency. I do have one last thing. Like I feel like I've said what I wanted to say on it. My one last thing is every single person on the Browns and Texans, to me, is not necessarily an accomplice, but should feel the emotional weight of what's happened.
Sure.
Kevin Stefanski, you're just as much to blame for not 100%. Talking about this.
I'm very happy that Kwesi got out of there and doesn't have to deal with this. So
all these guys, Jimmy Haslam, all these different players, coaches, assistant coaches, scouts, all these players that are even in the organization, that aren't saying anything, aren't actively looking
That
for
pulled the
other
trigger
positions,
on this, like
that
pulled the trigger on
right,
getting him,
or
like,
were excited about it when it happened. You're all part of this. You're part of this now. Every second that you're on that team without making a statement, or without every player that isn't demanding a trade right now, you're saying that you support your quarterback and what he's done. And by the way, for those of you that want to say that we wouldn't say this about Ben Roethlisberger, we mentioned this last week. People don't talk about Ben Roethlisberger when you're talking about the greatest
Kobe,
quarterbacks
too.
of all time, or Kobe. They don't talk about them when they're in like the greatest of all time. You know, like they somehow slipped my mind. It's because it's always in the back of your mind. And I thought this about Ben Roethlisberger. I'm blocked by Ben Roethlisberger on Twitter because I have said things about him that I disagree with.
Sure.
So yeah. So if you want to say like, how do you feel about Ben Roethlisberger? Because I see people comment that all the time on Twitter. That's how I feel. I'm blocked by Ben Roethlisberger because I think he was a scumbag as well, even though he was acquitted, or he settled outside of court, something like that. But
yeah, I mean,
either way, like
happened, yeah.
I don't like Kareem Hunt because he was caught on camera. I don't agree with him being able to come back into the NFL. Didn't agree with the fact that Joe Mixon, early second round pick,
that
and
diner
fight, super, and caught on camera, and now still with that woman, I believe. You know, I don't. If you want every time all these players, all these coaches, as long as you're not actively trying to get out of that team, and as long as you're willing to stay silent, you are going to be silent. Like, it's not saying anything at all is saying something.
Yeah.
So Myles Garrett in a recent interview said, like, he basically skirted around it and said that's his deal. I'm here to play football. Well, who's the one leading practice for you? Even though you're on different sides of the ball, you know, maybe you send a message to your team and you tackle your quarterback in practice, even though he's wearing that red jersey.
Lay him out.
Yeah, see what happens. Like, if you are the true leader of that team, Myles Garrett, you do that, they're not cutting you. They cut you. You go to the Ravens.
Right.
They cut you and you go to the Bengals.
You go to the Steelers, line up opposite TJ Watt.
Right. Yeah. So like, they're not cutting Myles Garrett. Let's hear Myles Garrett make a statement.
Yeah.
I want like, so it's not all on him, but any player that stays silent is saying they're okay with it in my eyes.
Except I think the one person that's exempt from the Browns would be Baker at this point.
Baker hasn't been involved in anything.
Yeah, exactly. So
he is to blame if he's asked and says nothing.
Yeah.
But I mean, he should. If I'm him, he's always been vocal.
Right, yeah,
lay it out, man. Lay it out. I make a comment saying, "Well, they said they didn't want me because I'm not an adult. I guess they're fine with what they have now. Yeah. You don't have to call him any name. You don't have to assume anything legally. You can just straight up say, well, if I'm not an adult, what's he?"
Yeah.
That's all he has to say.
You're saying what probably every other organization outside of Houston and Cleveland is thinking. So,
yep. Yeah. And then Baker can even use himself. I've been in trouble with the law. I've been caught on camera running from a cop and getting tackled.
Right.
I've paid for my crimes. I wonder if anybody else has to pay on this team. Like, he could make these sorts of statements. The NFL likes to celebrate every single woman hired. First woman hired scout. Youngest female GM ever. Yeah. First female in the coaching staff. So they celebrate that as loud as it can because it brings in money, it brings in fans, it brings in all this attention. We were excited to potentially have a female GM as for the Vikings. It's exciting when you get that. But when 66 women are attacked sexually or made to feel uncomfortable sexually, that we can say that, crickets.
Yeah.
Nothing. We hear nothing. But if a woman were to get added to the NFL referee team next week, we'd see headlines, everything on ESPN, Fox Sports, NFL Network, another female ref, sports moving in the right direction. They don't care about women.
No.
If they cared about women, we'd hear something. There's obviously, like, I was part of a pre-law program until I decided to leave that. From what I remember, like, yes, they can't say a lot just because it involves the court system. so they can't really say a ton publicly, but there are people that can talk, and they can make statements without making statements, that aren't doing anything right now. And I think that they should, but they're not. But they're really loud at making statements when a woman gets hired.
Right.
But do they not care about women when they're getting touched?
Yeah,
they're forced to use somebody else's towel.
Yeah, I don't know. This whole situation is just
makes my stomach curdle.
Yeah. Yep. And
I don't know, even so, I have a daughter. Even if I didn't, this would make my blood boil, stomach curdle, makes me mad to the point I'm tear up mad. And it's so frustrating that the fact that he's the highest paid quarterback ever, guaranteed money. He's expected to be in the NFL for at least 10 more years. He's going to be considered one of the faces. If he doesn't get suspended, or even is only suspended a year, 5 years from now, they're going to be talking, is he a top 5 quarterback in the NFL? They're going to be talking about him as a top 5 quarterback
right now. He's fourth. He's fourth right now.
So they're saying it now, and all these people that are watching get to say, all right, you're idolizing this guy who allegedly did what he did. I disagree with it, and I hope he gets some sort of punishment, whether it's a short suspension and sexual therapy or a indefinite suspension.
Yeah,
and
I hope there's repercussions for him and the Cleveland Browns organization.
And I feel this way, any player in the future. It doesn't have to just be Deshaun. Any player. If domestic violence continues to be an issue, any player, I don't ever want them back in the NFL. You gave up your opportunity when you decided to lay hands on somebody in a way they didn't want. And I just anyone, just go ahead, get a speeding ticket. There's petty crimes or small crimes. Where it stops is violent crimes. You commit a violent crime, you probably shouldn't be allowed to be in this sport. While I do believe football is therapy for a lot of these guys that do have those violent tendencies, and help let those out.
At the end of the day, NFL players, professional athletes in general are, I forgot the word, was it leaders? They're leaders, and whether it's your starting quarterback or the 53rd guy on the roster, or whether it's the I think they can have 16 now, the 16th guy on the practice squad, so it doesn't matter. Those professional athletes, all of them have to be exemplary. Yeah. Yep. Just models for everyone. So if one person is, hitting their significant other, that's not what you want in a leader.
That's how casual fans are going to view the NFL as a whole.
And everyone deserves a second chance, but they don't deserve 23 second chances. Yeah.
Count each one of those as a chance. He's already gotten paid to do nothing for a season. He's fine. He should have all the wealth in the world to live forever without having to work another day in his life. That's not the issue. They're leaders. Whether you like it or not, celebrities and athletes are idolized by fans, idolized by the common people, by regular civilians. That 53rd man walks into a local store because he doesn't think he'll get recognized. He gets recognized, and he's taking pictures for the next 5 hours. That's just what happens. These athletes are looked up to. Half of the people that took pictures with that guy aren't even know who it is. They're just going to see the fact that they're a 6'3" ripped person that was in store, and everybody was taking pictures with them. That's just what happens. So because they're looked up to, everybody in Cleveland has to think, when my kid's watching football and they say their favorite player is Deshaun Watson, make sure your kid knows why. When I was a kid, I always said I liked Michael Jordan. My family had me look it up just so that I knew, by the way, you're rooting for a guy with a gambling issue who potentially cheated on his wife and all this stuff. Just know that. Do you still like him? It's I like him as a player, but I don't like him. I don't have to like what he does off the field or off the court. Just make sure your kids know. If he's not suspended and you're playing, just make sure your kids know when they're rooting for him that there's 66, at least 66 people out there, and all of the people connected to those 66 people have to hear about that all the time. Yeah. So that was the big topic. You can let us know what you think about Deshaun, that whole scenario. Do you think he doesn't deserve suspension at all because the courts let him go? Do you think he should be suspended indefinitely? Do you think this is just a race issue and people are making it a big deal because it is a black quarterback? That's why all of a sudden they care. They didn't care about Roethlisberger. Do you feel that? Yeah, let us know what you think. I'd love to have a discussion. We had to comment on last week's video that we responded to. So, yeah, let us know. Let us know. I'd love to hear what you think. Shoot us a tweet, DM. I have all my DMs open to everyone. So if you want to let me know, even if you're angry, you think we had some stupid ideas, let us know, because this topic is something that should be talked about no matter which side of the argument you're on, because those first set of like 24 women aren't going to feel justice, but they should at least feel heard. You all look good today. See you next week. GG.
GG.